Volodymyr Zelensky says the military incursion into Kursk aims to create a buffer zone to prevent further attacks by Russia. Antony Blinken is in Tel Aviv to try to seal a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas to end more than 10 months of war.
Venezuelans held protests across the world to defend the opposition's claim to victory in last month's disputed presidential election. Polish space science mark a historic milestone as they successfully launch Eagle Eye satellite.
Heavy rains lash alpine regions of Austria, leaving parts of the capital Vienna underwater. A magnitude 7 earthquake strikes off Russia's eastern coast after 2 volcanic eruptions in the Kuril Islands. At least 23 people are injured after 2 Ferris wheel gondolas catch fire at a music festival in Leipzig. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has said the military incursion into Russia's Kursk region aims to create a buffer zone to prevent further attacks by Moscow across the border. It's the first time Zelensky has stated the aim of the military operation, which was launched on August the 6th.
Є за сьогодні хороші, потрібні нам результати у знищенні російської техніки під Торецьком. І це все більш ніж захист для України. Це зараз основне завдання наших оборонних дій загалом. Знищити якомога більше російського потенціалу війни. І проводити максимум контрударної роботи.
He also used his nightly video address to appeal to international allies to speed up deliveries of military hardware for the battlefield. Zelensky's comments come on the same day the Ukrainian military released footage showing what it said was the destruction of a key bridge in Kursk, the second such bridge struck in less than 2 weeks. Destroying the bridges could disrupt Russia's supply routes and might signal that Ukraine has intentions for its troops to dig in. The Ukrainian military operation has seen Kyiv's forces seize several villages, take hundreds of prisoners, and force the evacuation of tens of thousands of civilians, in what's become the largest attack on Russia since World War II. In more than a week of fighting, Russian troops are still struggling to drive out Ukraine's forces. Kyiv also hopes the operation will change the dynamic of the more than 2-year-old conflict. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has arrived in Tel Aviv to try to seal a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas to end more than 10 months of war. The evolving proposal calls for a 3-phase process in which Hamas would release all hostages abducted during its October the 7th incursion into Israel. In exchange, Israel would withdraw its forces from Gaza and release Palestinian prisoners. But Hamas, which didn't participate directly in the talks, has signaled resistance to what it calls new demands by Israel. But Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu accused Hamas of sabotaging efforts to reach a ceasefire.
אני מבקש שוב להדגיש, החמאס עד לרגע זה דבק בסרבנותו, הוא אפילו לא שלח נציג לשיחות בדוחה. ולכן את הלחץ צריך להפנות לחמאס ולסינואר ולא לממשלת ישראל.
As Blinken touched down in Tel Aviv, Israeli authorities showed journalists their preparations for any attack in the northern port city of Haifa. Lebanon's Hezbollah militant group has launched drones and rockets into Israel on a near-daily basis since the start of the war, and Israel has responded with airstrikes and artillery.
We have been preparing for an attack and we are ready for anything. There are diplomatic attempts to de-escalate the situation, but we are ready for everything and anything on any front.
Meanwhile, at least one person was killed and another injured after a bomb exploded in Tel Aviv on Sunday evening, according to Israeli police. That explosion happened as health officials in Gaza said 29 people had been killed in the strip overnight and into Sunday.
Venezuelans across the world responded to a call from their country's political opposition, the Democratic Unity Platform, and took to the streets to defend the faction's claim to victory over President Nicolas Maduro in last month's disputed presidential election. In Lisbon, protesters showed copies of the election results presented by the opposition, which give 67% of the votes to Edmundo González, more than 7.3 million votes, and only 30% to Maduro, who will have won 3.3 million votes. Demonstrators also called on worldwide governments to show their support behind González and express support to Venezuelans who are fearful in their home country of speaking against Maduro and his allies.
India's medical workers have begun a nationwide strike to protest the rape and killing of a trainee doctor at a state-run hospital in West Bengal state. The strike was called by the Indian Medical Association, which said all non-essential services at hospitals will be shut down across the country for 24 hours.
This rape has shaken our faith in the system. You saw how the gruesome murder and rape was done, and later on every effort was made to shield the victim, and that is what happens every time in India.
On August the 9th, police discovered the body of a 31-year-old trainee doctor at the state-run RG Kar Medical College and Hospital in Kolkata. A police volunteer working at the hospital has been detained in connection with the crime, but the family of the victim alleges it was a gang rape. An autopsy confirmed sexual assault had taken place.
Ukraine offers a rare look inside a detention center housing Russian troops captured in battle. As dozens of prisoners of war were seen at the center, Vadim, the deputy head of education work at the prison, describes the conditions the inmates live in.
Кожен військовополонений у нас забезпечений розбитим спальним місцем, матрасом, постільними речами, подушкою, одіялом, речами першої необхідності, тобто ложка, тарілка, кружка, зубна паста, щітка, порошок, мило, це все видали, забезпечили одягом. Кожному військовому полоненому прогулянка надається кожного дня не менше однієї години. Баня раз на тиждень проводиться.
According to the facility's officials, more than 300 captives have passed through the center since the start of Ukraine's Kursk incursion, 80% of them being conscripts, whilst many soldiers showed little resistance when taken captive, according to the center. It remains unclear how many Russian soldiers were captured by Ukrainian troops during their raid in Kursk.
Heavy rains have lashed alpine regions of Austria, leaving parts of the capital Vienna underwater. Local media say downpours have caused severe damage in parts of the country and disrupted road and rail transport. National broadcaster ORF said that a woman was dragged under a bus by the force of flooding in the Döbling area in the north of Vienna and was taken to hospital in a critical condition. The amount of rain to fall on Vienna is the highest since records began more than 150 years ago. Meanwhile, cleanup operations in St. Anton continue, with trucks and excavators working to remove the mud and gravel from the road and the village. The A road to Arlberg remains closed, and a decision on when to reopen it will be taken on Monday.
Derzeit sind wir in St. Anton unten natürlich voll mit Maschinen, mit Backern, mit LKW unterwegs, und wenn Verkehr natürlich da kommt, das behindert uns natürlich unglaublich. Jetzt müssen wir erst schauen, wie wir da die Situation jetzt unten einmal halbwegs lösen, aber die Entscheidung wird heute Nachmittag einmal fallen.
St. Anton's mayor says the cleanup operation will take weeks to complete, and volunteers will help clean houses in the village. An earthquake with a preliminary magnitude of 7.0 has struck off the far eastern coast of Russia near a major naval base. The quake happened after two volcanoes erupted in the Kuril Islands on Sunday. The US Pacific Tsunami Warning Center initially warned that hazardous tsunami waves were possible for coasts within 480 kilometers of the epicenter. There have been no reports of any casualties. At least 23 people have been injured after two gondolas on a Ferris wheel caught fire at a music festival in Leipzig. The fire started in one gondola and spread to another, with eyewitnesses reporting them spinning wildly. Local police said first responders and 4 police officers are being examined in hospital for possible smoke inhalation. A police spokesperson said an investigation into the cause of the fires is ongoing and that criminal investigators are on the scene. 2 new forest fires have broken out in the popular tourist towns of Yatan and Ula in southwestern Turkey. Dozens of aircraft and ground vehicles have been dispatched to both sites, with nearly 300 personnel currently fighting the blazes. The Disaster and Emergency Management Directorate said at the weekend that more than 130 wildfires have erupted across the country in the past week. Most have been brought under control, but 5 major blazes continue in the provinces of Izmir, Aydın, Manisa, Karabakh and Bolu.
Alain Delon, the legendary French actor whose talent made him an icon of French and European cinema, has died at the age of 88. His 3 children announced his death in a joint statement, saying they were immensely saddened and that the actor passed away peacefully at his home, surrounded by family. Born in France in 1935, Delon rose to international fame in the 1960s with memorable roles in films like In Full Sun and The Leopard. His loss will be deeply felt by fans and colleagues around the world.